welcome to another session of Life and Learner Success, brought to you by Top Virtual Staffing Solutions, where we grow, learn, and innovate. We would appreciate you guys to follow us on all social media accounts. Search us using Top Virtual Staffing Solutions or TVSS. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at this contact information. Text, call, or fax us at 866-TVSS-VA1. All right, for our second session, we will review what session 1 is. We'll go ahead and highlight another nonprofit organization. We'll identify how analytical are you. We learn from mistakes, and we also celebrate successes. And as always, we will tie up critical thinking, scientific thinking, growth mindset, and willpower, which are all discussed extensively in our other program or channel, which is TVSS Strength Through Stress. Please watch session 6 in terms of what is critical thinking. All right, so disclaimer. So again, this is only for informational purposes only or educational purposes. Nothing prescriptive. So all the best. All right, ground rules, just like any other session that we have. So we'll share. And to our nonprofit organization, that would be the Community Action Council, are the organization that helps out all of the other nonprofit organizations in our county. And if you are not from here, if you want to support another organization similar to this, feel free to search your local chapter. Now, as we highlight each of these nonprofit organizations per session, if you want to go ahead and support them equally, please go to our GoFundMe page. We would appreciate that. And a big portion of that will be, again, equally shared to the nonprofit organizations. A small percentage will go ahead and go to our initiative here, and portion of that will go to the college fund of my companion here. All right, so we also offer free virtual town hall sessions, and one of them is with Attorney Nyberg, where we discuss immigration during COVID-19. So feel free to go ahead and watch that and share. All right, Miko, do you have any questions for me?
No.
No? Okay, so let's go ahead and review the first session. We have CAP here and personal responsibility. So what does CAP stand for again?
Creative, analytical, and practical.
Very good. And all of that is important in terms of successful intelligence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But overall, whose responsibility is it to be successful as possible?
Yourself.
Okay, you got it. So with lifelong learning, is there anything here, as we have shared this from last session, care to share a little bit more what you're responsible for in terms of developing and building your knowledge and skills and to improve your life, or anything else about growth mindset?
Well, my growth mindset is when I was very behind on doing schoolwork. So I know that there was very little time in just 1 week to continue all my schoolwork, and I have a lot of modules, and I'm still doing schoolwork right now. I have assignments, so I always tell myself that I'm still learning, so it's okay, and I have to keep going.
That you need to continue to develop yourself, and that's what lifelong learning is, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So in terms of being creative and learning from mistakes and facing your fears and connecting what you have learned, is there anything here that you want to discuss a little bit more about?
Well, learning from my mistakes, I have learning from my mistakes. It's when I did not good grammar, bad grammar. So I have to learn from that mistake so I can fix it and know not to do it anymore, to revise my writing or typing.
I don't even know if that's correct grammar, that I have bad grammar or something.
Yeah, so
So how are you going to revise that? How are you going to express yourself again in relation to grammar?
I feel I will definitely have more mistakes in the future, but I will learn from them. And then I know all these things that include grammar, revising, editing.
Over in relation to writing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else that you want? How are you going to be creative from those mistakes? Because that's the main heading here.
I can be creative by adding a little bit of, or I can put in a fancy word but means the same thing.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So analytical. How do you learn effectively? How do you think about your thinking? Remember metacognition?
Yes.
Okay. So care to share a little bit more about how do you learn effectively yourself?
Most of the time when I learn effectively, it's something that I want to do, or I like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, I think I learn effectively with my classes in programming, and I think I learn effectively in my classes in my piano classes. So, yeah.
Okay.
There.
So if you're interested with what you are learning, no doubt, it helps you learn effectively, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is this of interest to you in terms of being successful? Finding ways to be
Yes.
successful? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you're not just saying yes because you're talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And then for practical, why is the series important to you? And I think it ties up to my other question, or what can you apply right away? Is there anything?
This
Yeah, go ahead.
series is definitely important to me. So when I'm older, I have some or most of the traits of getting of having of getting better at learning, so I can practice writing or practice math, practice all those different things that I have in school and so college.
Sounds good. And think about that. You mentioned practice at least 3 times, I believe. And that's what it is, practical. That's the root word of it.
Yes.
And you are able to apply whatever it is in what you're learning to real life situations.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, so critical thinking, again, this is discussed in the Strength Through Stress session. So is there any of the intellectual standards that you are applying to the elements of reasoning in order to develop the intellectual traits? Is there anything specific here in relation to this subject matter right now?
That would be my point of view in elements of reasoning.
Okay. What point of view are you able to see differently from the last session, or anything in terms of being as successful as possible?
My point of view, something different that I have is that how should I say this? I don't agree that first, I don't agree that COVID-19, the pandemic we are in right now, is fake. And then another thing that I want, well, it has something to do with point of view. I want to be in a scientist's point of view to see what they're doing to help people with the COVID-19 right now.
That's super. And all the details that you are following through in terms of washing hands, wearing masks in public, and so on and so forth, that should help out. And that's amazing that you want to continue to develop your scientific thinking abilities in one shape or form. And yes, it starts now. It has started ever since whenever you can. So that is good. Okay? Wonderful. Good stuff. And speaking of scientific thinking or higher order thinking of skills, is there anything that you have learned from the previous session, especially when we had the review earlier, that you want to create, evaluate, analyze, or apply? And think about it. That's where CAP rate is right there. Create, analyze, apply, or being practical. And, and any other level of awareness with your thought processes. Is there anything that you can share from a last session?
Well, and I can definitely increase my level of awareness with my thought processes by if I finish something that's small, I celebrate, and I just celebrate a little bit because I know it's not too big. It's still something completed. So I celebrate a very small celebration, and that really gets me to focus. So when I think I can't do it, I can't do something, I can't do a task or a module, I think of that celebration, and keeps me awake.
Keeps you moving towards another direction, right?
Yes.
And here I am, speaking of analysis, I missed to
Oh,
correct this one.
yeah.
Yes, so
I missed
I
it.
won't have this error again. All right. Okay, so how analytical are you? So in the next few items here, I will ask or identify a statement, and you answer. You can go ahead and chat it if you want, just like last time, and you identify if that's not at all true for me or very true of you, okay? So think from your perspective, there are no right or wrong answers. Obviously, as just like anything else, we want you to be as truthful as possible, because if you're just going to fake it or fudge it, it's not going to help any one of us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So don't answer it just trying to impress somebody else. Try to answer it truthfully. So, do you recognize and define problems effectively? So you'll go ahead and identify 1, not at all true, or 5, very true for me. And then anywhere in between 2, 3, 4, you go ahead and make that rating right there. So if you want to go ahead and chat it or identify in your own way there, it's totally up to you. So do you recognize and define problems effectively? All right, your answer is 4. Okay, let's move on to the second one. Do you consider yourself as being a thinker, as being analytical, as being studious? 1, again, not at all true for me. And 5, very true of me, or you for that matter. Okay, done responding? Are you responding going on your own? Okay, great, thank you. There's a problem with my problem. I type so fast. I need to have this checked. Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
I like to break down problems or a problem into components. Okay, this is terrible. I need to find a solution wherein I have those underlines helping me out, because again, I'm just typing so fast. I like to break down problems into components, not components. Oh my God. To evaluate each. How many misspelled words can you have in an item? This is horrible. Anyway, so I like to break down problems into components to evaluate each problem. Not at all true for me or very true of you. So what will be your rating? Seriously, after this session, I need to find out where that review is, just to go ahead and flag, hey, you're misspelling things. It's terrible. All right. I need credible evidence before accepting any information as fact. Is that not at all true for me or very true for me? How would you rate this statement for yourself? And if there's anything that's not clear, feel free to clarify, okay? How would you rate yourself here? That you need credible evidence. Okay. Let's move on to item 5. I weigh pros and cons of any action that I do or choose. Is that not at all true or very true of who you are and how you make decisions?
I don't understand that. Sorry.
Okay, which one do you not understand? I'm glad you're clarifying.
not under. I don't understand what you what you mean by weighing pros and cons.
You know what pros and cons are? What do they mean?
Well, good and bad, in a
Okay.
general idea.
Okay, yeah, you got it. So you identify if you make this choice or if you go ahead and act and behave this way, whatever that is. Do you weigh the advantages and disadvantages of such actions?
What do you mean by I weigh?
You weigh things. You
Oh,
go
you
ahead and
compare them?
you go ahead and list down what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages. And then you go ahead and identify which one would be better.
Ah, okay.
If I choose this action, I identify would there be more pros or advantages versus disadvantages? So, does that make sense? Does that help? Okay. So, generally speaking, before you act on anything, is this true of you or not? In terms of pros and cons, or advantages and disadvantages of any action that you do. Okay, score yourself. Cool. All right. Moving on to the next item, I make connections among pieces of information through categorization. So do you categorize and then you make these connections accordingly? Is that true or not very true? Again, very true is 5, 1 is not at all.
Ooh.
So do you make these connections whenever you receive pieces of information? Or yeah, as you've mentioned earlier, when you continuously learn from school, how you work with your life, and so on and so forth.
That's hard.
Okay, so what do you think you are? Not at all true or very true or somewhere in the middle? Either one, I do not care as long as you are answering it as truthfully as you could. Next item. I am uneasy when I have to make impulsive and spontaneous decision-making actions. Not at all true or very true. That you are not comfortable when all of a sudden you have to make decisions right away, especially for important ones.
Oops.
1, not at all. 5, very true. Okay. All right. The 8th one, progression toward goals are monitored. Do you monitor your progress with whatever goals that you are trying to achieve? 1, not at all true. 5, very true. Next item, cause and effect are established whenever you make decisions. 1, not at all true, or 5, very true. You establish cause and effect with whatever decisions that you make. All right. Last item. When you reach a goal or when you're trying to achieve a goal, you evaluate the processes to see how effective and efficient it was for you to reach your goal. So when you're trying to accomplish something, you evaluate, okay, what made it successful or what made it not successful. And here it is again, another misspelled word. Oh my goodness. Yes, after this session, definitely I need to go ahead and switch on that. Speaking of practical solutions here. So as I go ahead and type, I mean, it would be good for me to go ahead and read everything again. But, oh well. So, good?
Yes.
All right. So go ahead and add those numbers. The values that you have placed from 1 to 10. What do you have?
Hang on.
All right. 34. So 38 to 50, if that's your score range, you have strong analytical skills. 24 to 37, some average. 10 to 23, you need improvement. Why did you close your eyes, or why did you do that gesture?
I was super close to 38.
Okay. And is that a problem?
Not really. It's the second time I've got average score.
Okay. Now, are we always aiming to be good at everything?
No.
Okay. But this is where you go ahead and know yourself a little bit more, correct?
Yes.
So, speaking of analytical skills, let's go ahead and analyze things. If I'm going to answer these, I'm mostly 5s and 4s, so I don't think I'll have anything as a 3 here. Majority of them would possibly be 5. There's some 4s, could be. So I could see here you scored number 5 as a 2. Let's analyze that a little bit more if you're okay with that. Are you good to analyze that a little bit further?
Sure.
Okay. So why did you rate yourself as a 2 with any choice that you make?
Sometimes it's just I don't think.
You just do it. Okay. That you just do things.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Not thinking.
Okay. And then for number 10, I think that's the only one that you identified as a number 5. Why is that very true of you?
Because I always tell myself, look at what you can fix, look at the results, only if it's not hidden, of course.
Okay.
And then see what you can get that is new to you, and then you can apply it to your next trivia or something like that.
Next trivia or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Correct. Awesome. All right. And that's how you become analytical. All of these items here, you can continue to develop. And that's where growth mindset will come in. These are skills. These are mental cognitive skills that you can continue to develop and really identify what it would be. for me, for example, for number 9, where cause and effect are established whenever making decisions, is that it's difficult to establish cause and effect in everything that we do because
Yeah.
there's so many other variables involved. So for me, I'll go use that as a 4 or 3. Number 7, possibly I'll score myself as a 4 there too. Because sometimes I just need to make a decision right now and whatever, let's get it done. But for really important decision-making process, then yes, I do take time. And yes, I establish what are the possible advantages and disadvantages. And then hopefully there would be more advantages than disadvantages. So for example, you play Scrabble, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you play Scrabble, when you make a move, you try to identify the pros and cons of this move, that you get the maximum possible score while limiting the other person to score as much, right? You don't create an opening.
Yes.
So technically speaking, you are already doing that. The same thing when you play chess. For every move that you make, you try to be ahead 3, 4, 5 steps ahead in order to defeat the opponent, correct?
Yes.
So you don't make silly moves and then you end up losing pieces or even losing the game.
And then you lose. Yes.
Okay. So that's how you can continue to weigh the pros and cons of any choice that you make. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But at the same time, you being a kid, that's part of your growth process. That with every action that you make, you try to think a little bit more, okay, is this a really good thing to do, or this is just going to be nonsense? You know what I mean?
Yes.
All right, lovely. Do you have any questions here?
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We all learn from failure. That's all of us. I have failed in so many levels regarding the spelling debacle here. To analyze what happened, yeah, I type too fast and I'm not editing me looking at my work. I just type and type and type. So the idea here, what's the plan, what's the strategy, and let's be successful next time. I know possibly there's something that I need to switch on PowerPoint, just like with Word, wherein it will automatically highlight in red something that is wrong. I know there's that function. I have to research it. I'll go ahead and make sure that I activate that with the slides that I have. So I'm learning from my failure. All right, next one is let's go ahead and be creative. Let's approach things a little bit more differently. Because if you failed and you approach it this way, what's another way to get into the goal that you want to succeed? And I know you scored 4, wherein you evaluate the processes, or even 5 with whatever you did, be able to, what made you become successful to reach that goal, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you can continue to be as successful as possible. And that's a critical component right there. Next one is evaluation, and that's part of the critical thinking or higher order thinking skills. You evaluate, you determine what's the best course of action here. And then you acted on it. You commit to it, that it will be done. Okay? And as you mentioned earlier, you celebrate success. Whatever, small or big, you appreciate yourself that you succeeded. But the most important thing is that with the evaluation process, you identify what made you become successful. What made you win the Scrabble game? What made you complete your schoolwork? Whatever it is. Then you identify to that and to continue to do that so that there would be more successes more than failures. But one of the things that you identified earlier, we will fail. We will make mistakes. That's part of life, yes. But hopefully as we capture it, as we learn from it, we do not make the same mistakes again. Am I clear so far?
Yes.
Okay. Next, in terms of celebrating successes, This again, as you mentioned, having a growth mindset. We discussed in the first session that you are mostly responsible on what would happen to your life and what's going to happen to you. And having the growth mindset that, yes, I am not going to be perfect all the time, but I will continuously learn, and that's why we have lifelong learning here. And celebrate success. For me, I love food. Except for the mayo. So reward yourself, whatever that is. Okay? But I like how you phrased it earlier. If it was a small goal, I celebrate small, meaning not because I wipe my laptop down, I'm going to spend $2,000 to pamper myself. Maybe not. I clean my laptop down. You know what? That's already my reward. I'm celebrating. I have cleaned my laptop. You know what I mean? So I like your thought process earlier. That with a small success, you reward yourself. But it has to be of the same level. You completed schoolwork, okay, we'll celebrate a little bit. Okay? Now you've completed your school, your birthday is around the corner, you don't have to identify exactly when, and you have 2 days of freedom of doing whatever it is that you want to do in your life. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Know yourself. Identify 10 strengths. And then in our next session, this is something that we will do. But you get to identify that, you get to list that. So basically, this is my homework for you. You don't have to start doing it now. Well, you can start doing it now. But you identify what are the 10 things that you're really, really good at, that you're really, really solid with or very successful with. So identify those 10 strengths. Okay? And the opposite of that is areas of improvement. What do you need to do to continuously improve? What areas in your life that you need to improve? So that's your homework. Hopefully you get to share these on the next session. And know thyself is that you capitalize on your strength to work on your challenges. I'll give my specific example. My strength is that I'm very competitive. And I know you have heard the story, but I'll do it again here. My strength is that I want to compete to the highest level that I can, whether it's playing chess, Scrabble, or basketball, or whatever. My area of improvement is I get impatient. So what I try to do is, if something's really bothering me, I'm going to compete with myself that I do not get angry or I do not become impatient. So I'm capitalizing on my strength of competitiveness. I'm going to compete with myself that being impatient, I will not be defeated by that. That I will continue to be patient. What's next? You know what I mean?
Yes.
All right. So that's ideally how you can work yourself through it. But they can be not related. That's okay. For me, I try to relate being competitive with being impatient. In essence, they're not really directly related, right?
Yes.
But here I am. That's how I'm doing it. That I'm capitalizing on my strength in order to work on my challenges.
Okay.
Cool?
Yep.
All right. Let's review. So, what did we discuss this evening?
We discussed idea, planning, strategy, and success.
Okay.
Having different ideas to complete your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Evaluating and acting.
Lovely.
What did you do in order to finish your task? Growth mindset. you have a reward that matches how big your task is. My homework is to identify 10 strengths. Continuous improvement. And continuous improvement.
Okay. Wow. You really captured that well. Are you looking at your notes?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. But that's why you type down. That's why you type notes to begin with. It helps you learn. That's great. So overall, with about 8-10 sentences that you identified, you go ahead and identify how analytical are you. How are you analyzing the things that take place? All right. And then why learn for both successes and failures? And whatever made us successful, continue to do that. If it's working, it's working. If it's not working, like what you said, let's be creative on how can we rework things, right? And how much do you know yourself? We'll discuss that a little bit more in the next session. All right, lifelong learning. What can you do to develop your analytical skills further? And how can you continue to know yourself further? So with lifelong learning, as identified with those 10 items earlier, how would you challenge yourself to continue to practice those? And just like anything else, and that's what it is for being practical, you need practice. So hopefully this interests you, because as you've said, to make you to become an effective learner, that you're interested in something. So hopefully you're interested to continue to develop your analytical skills. So you analyzed, okay, I don't normally evaluate the pros and cons of what my actions will be. But you evaluate after you are done. So maybe here, after you have taken a course of action, you evaluate it. But maybe what you can do is evaluate before you take an action. And most likely how the results would yield whether you achieve your goal or you do not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's already good that you're doing it after. So the next step now is how you can do it before. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So creative. Identify a mistake and how can you be creative to solve this error? So my example, as I mentioned, regarding all of these misspelled words, it's driving me nuts. But I need to be creative. I need to be competitive because I don't want to be super angry at myself with all of these misspelled words. So I'm competing with myself not to be angry, and I just need to focus on solutions here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Analytical. Analyze a mistake, and what can you do to improve that mistake? As I mentioned, I know there's a function here on PowerPoint that will check out misspelled words. So I need to go ahead and research that and make sure I switch that on. And practical, yes, we need to learn from mistakes because that's terrible to have all of these misspelled words. There's no other way of explaining it. Get it right. Go ahead, Miko.
Why did you have mistakes in quotation marks?
Oh, I love that question. I absolutely love that question. I absolutely love that question. The reason why I have it in quotation marks is because, as you have mentioned, nobody's perfect. We will all make mistakes. And the reason why I put it on quotation marks is because we need to allow ourselves to have mistakes, to have errors. But what we cannot allow is for the same mistake to happen over and over. Does that help clarify why I have it in quotations?
Yes.
And at the same time, I don't want to be negative that, oh, okay, we're all errors all the time. No, doesn't have to be. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, great question. And yeah, I missed to go ahead and share why I'm putting it in quotation marks. All right, so again, we want to invite you Strength Through Stress, Sundays 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This session, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Workout Buddy on Facebook, Fridays, 10 a.m. And Happy Hour, Videoke or Scrabble. Speaking of Scrabble, hopefully we get to see you there. at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. See you next session. Thank you for joining. And these are the references that we have. All right, any questions?
Nope.
All right, so we'll see you in the next session then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video informational and educational. Please share our videos and subscribe to our channel. If not, my dad will not give me dessert.